YouTube. It is so good to be back. I'm back from Thailand. I was there most of the month of March, as many of you already know. Gosh, was it full of so much inspiration for me. I spent a lot of time just working on the pauses, literally practicing those pauses, the moments in between. That was really, really good for me. And lots of new ideas for projects, just so much inspiration. And so I just wanted to share it all with you all today and talk about how that really flows right into this week's pause. And I know this year I've changed the structure of my channel to go in a different direction, but it's all about art. It's all about storytelling. You know, you guys have spent so much time with technique, and there's wonderful channels out there still showing tons of techniques, and I love the work that they're doing. What I feel there's not enough of, I don't feel there's enough mixed media artists like myself helping other mixed media artists to develop and tell their stories. I feel that there's not enough of that out there. Because I have such a passion for it and I love doing this, I really wanted to jump into that space and begin to have these type of dialogues with my community and with the new people who are coming into the community, because I feel like we're in those times that storytelling is powerful. So I'm Robin McClendon. For those of you who may just stumbled upon my channel, I'm a mixed media artist, an author, educator. I love teaching other creatives what I know and how I approach art. My concept around my projects is art mythos, which is about visual storytelling, and I consider myself an RTO mythologist, a person who tells stories through art, and that's what I love to share out with my community. And I really feel like these pauses this year really fits in to my whole personal mission statement as an artist and as an educator. The whole reason why I do YouTube, why I do my Teachable, why I even share with my community is because I just have this strong desire to help people formulate their stories visually. I feel we all have stories and we all want to share them, but I don't know that we all understand how to formulate them into something that really speaks true to who we are as individuals, that really expresses the things that we want to express, maybe in the style that we want to express them, because it's all about style too. You know, some people are very comfortable with a very combative, in-your-face type of style to bring a message across. Others maybe want it a little more subtle. Maybe some want it from a standpoint of just peace and harmony. Others may be comfortable with confrontation and don't mind putting their art in a more confrontational style. I think you can talk about this, the most difficult things from a standpoint of love and stillness. And sometimes that's very effective when you're dealing with things that are very sort of triggering and jarring. So on the other hand, you may have something that is maybe a very soft, maybe something that's very easy to overlook, like maybe a particular species of ants that are going extinct, and you're very, very, very much into ants as a study or as a species. They're very fascinating. I know I learned a lot about them when I was in Thailand, just looking at all the different populations and how they operate and stuff. It was fascinating. But anyway, so maybe if there's a certain species you want to save, you really want it to be really bold and in your face to grab somebody's attention, you know? So it's very important to sort of think about what your message is and how you want to say it. And part of that has everything to do with art mythos, is how to tell our stories visually. And maybe beginning to look at the different styles and the different ways you can tell your story based on what it is you want to say. So to me, the pauses work beautifully into this, because not only are we taking concepts weekly and we're thinking about them, and we're really incorporating them into the moments of our lives so we can really use them. It also helps us to pay better attention to what we're doing, what we're thinking, how we're formulating our days, right? How we're using these pauses even in our art, what we're saying with it. So I think that, it's a different way to think about approaching our stories, and the pauses are just practical practices, even though we're also using them to continue to sort of steal personal time back, right? Work on habits to be maybe being created outside of ourselves, like the doom scrolling, right? A lot of societal norms. It may not work for you. There may not be things that you really are on board with, but yet sometimes we find ourselves just kind of in that little line with everybody else going down the rabbit hole until we realize, whoa, that's not really, that doesn't resonate with me. So that's the beauty of the pauses. And the beauty of this journal that we're working in, I have right here in my lap, I was looking at this week's pause, and I'll show it closer up in the video clips. But like all of these are how we're telling our stories, and then the various art techniques that you're using, maybe the various mixed media techniques that you may be using, and you'll find which ones resonate more than others, which ones you feel tell your stories better. So all of this is all about art. I was looking at something recently in the business marketing space, and everyone is agreeing now that if you want to sell something, if you want to get something across, a concept across, fundraising, whatever you're doing, telling stories are at the root of it. People want to connect through stories. And as artists, we naturally create stories, but are we naturally developing those stories? Like in ways that are powerful, in ways that we really are owning the way in which we're telling our stories. Okay, so what's this week's pause? This week's pause is asking ourselves what things feed us and what doesn't. So yes, the idea of what is really feeding my spirit, my soul, what causes me to get up every day and go into that studio, or go walk the dog, or go take that jog or that walk, or whatever you're passionate about. What feeds you, and then what doesn't? Because a lot of times we do a little bit too much of what doesn't feed us and not enough of what feeds us. And what's interesting, I know I found for myself, is that I'm not always aware of what's not feeding me, though I'm still doing it. And sometimes that's counter to the things that are feeding me. So what feeds me? If I had to name 3 things right from the bat, right off the top, it would definitely be my family, my kids, my grandkids. Family feeds me. Even the month that I was away, I talked to my family every day. I Zoom call with my grandkids several times a week. My family were sending pictures back and forth daily. And as much as I was enjoying myself, and as much as I could have stayed there another month, easily, I knew at some point I'd have to stop that journey and come back and just be back with my kids, back with my grandkids, back with my family, my dogs. And then I'm ready to go out again. So I probably would never be a person that would just go somewhere and live a year or 2 years away from my family. That doesn't feed me. I would want both. I would want to be able to be away for a period of time and then come back. And in that meantime, I'm still staying in touch with them. We're talking daily, and because my children and now my grandchildren are very, very important to me. I'm fortunate for my mother to still be in my life, and I talk to her regularly. My sister is amazing. We talk regularly, and I'm fortunate for those relationships, and I value them. I've since lost my brother, and just recently my father, and wow, these relationships are very important to me. So no, I don't want to be somewhere all the way around the side of the globe and away from my family for an an extended period of time where I'm not able to come back and see them. So family is important. Travel. So that said, travel is very important. Travel is very, very inspirational for me. I get so many ideas, and that's probably the cultural anthropologist in me, which is why I studied anthropology. I love cultures. I love people from all over the world. I love the cultures that they've created for themselves. I love talking to them and finding out how they're thinking and what's going on in their part of the world. I love doing that. And from that, I get so much inspiration, so many new ideas. And also, it really feeds my own storyline and maybe a different way of thinking about my stories, or a different word to use. Like, you know, I spent time in Australia in 2019 and 2020, and one of the words that the Aborigines use is the word yarning. And that's how they get together and talk and tell stories. So they said, let's have a good yarn. It means let's have a good conversation. Love that word, yarning, you know? And so that I incorporated into my own ideas about telling stories, and how, you know, you weave and knit and, you know, just bring together fascination and storytelling. So I love that word, yarning. So for me, travel gives me the opportunity to look at different ways of describing a story that I may already know oh too well in my life, but it allows me different words and different ways of using and expressing it. So travel is everything. When I was in Thailand, I specifically had worked with a there in Thailand, you know, you just don't phone up an Uber or phone up, at least not on the islands I was on. I'm sure like there's the major cities you do, but I was on the island of Koh Phangan and Koh Samui, and you kind of have to schedule your cab, you know, so it's good just to have your cab number in your phone. And so one of them I scheduled, and he just took me and another friend that I met there around to all the temples. I said, I wanted to visit all these temples on the island. And he knows the island obviously intimately, and he goes to his own personal temple. So we went to visit all these temples. You know, I love churches. I love temples. To me, these are places where people congregate, and you learn so much about a culture and so much about the people and how they view themselves and view themselves in the cosmology happens around these places. So that's a big one. So the second one's travel. And you know the third thing that feeds me? Sumi ink. Like if I could have those three things, my family, travel, and Sumi ink, I could work miracles with just those three things. Is perfect. Like they say, if there was one thing I needed to grab when I was leaving out of my studio, not my home, but my studio, it'd be my supply of Sumi ink. Yeah, because it's so expressive, and it's just more than an art supply for me. So those are the things that really feed me. What doesn't feed me is sort of worldview. That's what's coming to my mind right now. Okay, what do I mean by worldview? I feel like I've had to sign off of a lot of and I'm sure you guys are the same. I hear a number of comments all the time where people are saying, within their comment, they say this as well. You know, just the news, just like all the social media feeds, just everywhere. We're just bombarded with more information about things that are going on in the world than we can even do anything about. It's not like we can even do anything about these. We have to wait for world leaders, different things, you know, like laws to be passed or this thing and that thing for there to be change. So I feel like sometimes my own nervous system is getting too much bombarded with just way too much news that I can't do anything with it. It's just, I can't even vote on it in the present moment. You know, you're not presented with a ballot or anything to say what would you say, or what, you know, what's your call on this. So I've really signed off on a lot of that stuff because I find it doesn't feed me. I have various ways I'll stay informed on what the news is for the week, but the constant bombardment, it's just too much. And then I also don't read comments because I feel like so many people are having such a difficult time in the world. Not, you know, I know I'm here sitting in the United States, where I'm not talking about just the United States, just traveling, just coming back. I came in contact with people from all over the world in many different countries, and everybody is having a struggle, and everyone is struggling with their own personal country, their personal governments. I mean, what you hear people say is not unlike what we hear people say here in the States. I mean, everyone is being triggered one way or the other. So I try not to read comments either, because I'm such an empath that it hurts me to just hear people suffering so much, and the anger. Like, you know, a lot of people will share their suffering through anger, and it's just difficult. So I don't read the comment section unless it's like art or something like that, you know what I mean? But like, if I'm coming on a news post, I'm not going to read the comment section. And I limit what's coming into my ear gates and my eye gates right now. You know, like the three monkeys: hear no evil, see no evil. So I can't say any evil, because one thing that I don't really want to hurt anyone. I'm that kind of person. I'm just want to have a love fest. And one thing that may be my truth may hurt someone else. And I'm finding that's very much the case. I have my own belief systems, and I have belief systems that are diametrically opposed to other people that I know. And I would never want to say things in a way that could be harmful to how they feel, like to disrespect their emotions. And unless we're having a discussion about something where we're having a discussion, but everything's a 30-second soundbite that I don't really want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to disregard how people may, you know, come to their own conclusions. So I find I stay out of certain conversations. I stay off of a lot of just that news. I catch up a couple times a week, and I stay out of comment sections. Even the comment sections in some of my own videos, I read through them because I want to respond to everyone, but some of them trigger me, you know, and I know the person who said it maybe doesn't think they triggered me, but they have. So, you know, you just have to turn that off. You just have to say, look, everybody is trying to figure this out. We live in very polarizing times. So I'm finding that what's not feeding me are these types of things. And so I have chosen how I'm going to interact with them. And a lot of it is about limiting. It's just limiting. And what's important to me is to make sure that I'm making decisions from my own mind, my own center, my own heart. And that means I've got to process. I've got to process information that's coming into me from all these sources. And then once I process it and think about it, then I think about how I want to word it, how I would want to reshare it. And that takes time to process it, at least for me. And so those are the choices I've made to be in relationship with things that don't feed me, but but you still need to know. You still kind of need to know what's going on in the world. So, yes. So what feeds you? Like, what are the things that feed you? Think of like 3 things, like the top 3 things. It could be more, but sometimes I find if you just think 3, the brain can go and sort that out a lot quicker. When you start saying 5 and 10, you can't even think of 1, right? So what 3 things feed you? And what just 1 thing or 2 things doesn't feed you? And then how can you incorporate those into your pauses this week? How can you be in relationship so that you're constantly feeding yourself, right? And also, inevitably, things that don't feed us will come up. How can you keep them from being a trigger? And sometimes when you know what feeds you, you can immediately replace that trigger with that thing that feeds you, you know? So for me, let's say it's my family. Well, if I'm triggered by something that doesn't feed me, I know, let me pick up the phone and call one of my daughters. Let me go hug one of my grandchildren. Let me talk to my son. You know what I'm saying? Because those things are going to be the things that feed me, and therefore they're going to counterbalance the thing that I was triggered in. So if you know what feeds you, you can almost instantly pick up that phone or go find your Sumi ink if you're like Robin and, you know, paint something with it. I think it's a wonderful way to be in balance with ourselves in a world that we don't control all the stimuli that's around us, and therefore you just have to have some pedagogies in place to help you deal with all of this. But anyway, yeah. What feeds me and what doesn't. So anyhow, enjoyed hanging out with you guys as always. I'm enjoying the journal in our journals. I love this book so much. And I'm excited. As much as I want this year to go slow and us to enjoy it, I know at some point we're going to be flipping through all these pages and we're just going to be in love with our journals. And even more importantly, we'll have new relationships to our stories. Hopefully we'll have more moments in the day because we're using these pauses and becoming more aware of them. And maybe we've brought new practices in and we've gotten rid of the old practices and pushed them out. So lots to look forward to. Love you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out with me as always and being on this journey. I do not take it for granted, and I love each and every one of you who are part of this community. So until next week, pause number 9. What feeds you and what doesn't?